This is File 1 of the first official investigation the United States Air Force ever opened on flying saucers. 1948. Inside Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, an intelligence officer types it up, stamps it confidential, and sends it to the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. This is Project Sign. The order had come down on the 30th of December, 1947. A letter signed by General Craigie. The subject line read simply, "Flying discs." Weeks later, the project was activated. This was not a tabloid, and it was not a rumor. It was a classified military intelligence project consolidating the sighting reports the Air Force had received, and it approached them the way you would investigate any potential threat, methodically. And look at the words the report chose. Not flying saucers, it calls them, plainly, unidentified flying objects, the same phrase we still use today. Before entertaining anything unusual, the investigators ruled out the ordinary. They obtained the flight schedules of lighted, night-flying advertising blimps and cross-checked them against the reports, looking for a mundane explanation first. But some of it did not rule out so easily. Reviewing the case files, the report flagged what it called a series of interesting observations. A high rate of climb, the apparent ability to remain motionless or to hover for a considerable length of time. And the shape, described again and again, oval, disc, or saucer, 31 times. And the reported sizes made little sense. They varied, in the report's own words, from that of a 25-cent piece to 250 feet in diameter, and from the size of a pursuit plane to the bulk of 6 B-29 airplanes. Laid out to scale, the range is almost impossible to picture. The report did not just collect stories, it counted. 77 of the sightings were of a single object. Others came in pairs, in groups, in formations of more than 10. Exhaust trails were reported 23 times, and the speed ranged, in the report's words, the entire range from very slow or hovering to supersonic. And the shapes, page after page of them, egg-shaped discs, one described as between a circle and an oval, an inverted saucer, 12 feet thick and as much as 250 feet wide, giving off a sound like an electric motor. A flaming red cone, a pencil, and some the file could only call flying saucers. It was how they moved that the officers kept returning to. One, watched by a major, descended from altitude in an oscillating fashion, almost to the ground, then climbed again to a very high altitude and moved off, slowly, in the distance. A captain reported one falling at 3 times the rate of a parachute. A harbor pilot watched a full disk become a half-moon, then nothing at all. Others, descending in a spiral, a zigzag course, climbing, diving, and reversing direction every few seconds. They even plotted which way the objects went. A compass drawn by hand, northwest 63 times, north 38, south 34, some simply circling, and 64 where the direction could not be determined at all. Behind the summary sat the data, page after page of it, more than 100 incidents logged and numbered beginning in the summer of 1947. Date, time, location, what was seen and by whom. So who was seeing them? The file records the occupation of every witness it can: a captain for United Airlines, a representative of TWA, the Coast Guard, a deputy sheriff, a farmer who watched 2 of them fly a city block apart, one behind the other, and a lieutenant governor. And in uniform, Air Force lieutenants, captains, majors, a lieutenant colonel, a Navy lieutenant flying a P-80 jet, an astronomer, a weather reporter, an administrative assistant from a rocket-science section. These were not, on the whole, people prone to seeing things. One report stood apart. A radio operator watched an object hover, then make 3 complete turns around a single point, each turn taking 30 to 40 seconds. He estimated its diameter at 2 miles. And they came from all over, coast to coast across the United States, and then from beyond it. A ship off the coast of Australia, the North Sea, Budapest, Hungary, even a single report from the middle of the Pacific. In the catalogue, Incident 40 is listed plainly, a grey ellipse, 20 to 30 feet across, a noise like a jet aircraft heard just before it appeared, and then no audible sound at all while it was in view. And then there was Incident number 40, because Incident number 40 came with photographs. A witness had photographed the object, grey, elliptical, and the enlargements were forwarded to this headquarters for examination. This is that photograph. 2 frames the witness caught as the object passed over Phoenix. The technical analysis is in the file. It concluded that the image was, quote, of true photographic nature and not due to imperfections in the emulsion. A real object, not a flaw in the film. It had been at about 2,000 feet. The observer reported seeing, clearly, a canopy or an enclosure. From the lens and the distance, they measured the object's diagonal at roughly 44 to 55 feet. And here is the part the myth leaves out. The men writing this report were not believers, they were skeptics. Of Incident number 18, they wrote, "It has now been definitely determined that both the photograph and story were a hoax, perpetrated for publicity and money." Another witness they set aside entirely, described in the file as an excitable person, very talkative, possessing an exaggerated imagination, and inclined to impress people with his continuous chatter. They discarded what did not hold. What remained, they could not so easily explain. So what did they conclude? They took it to the experts. Representatives visited Dr. Irving Langmuir of the research laboratories at General Electric, a Nobel-winning chemist. His opinion, the available data did not contain enough to make a positive identification. Langmuir was reluctant to consider the so-called flying discs as a reality. But the Air Force did not close the door. It was believed, at this headquarters, that it was possible to construct a low aspect ratio aircraft, one that would duplicate many of the appearance and performance characteristics of the reported discs, through, they wrote, the intelligent application of boundary layer control. They had even set the photographs beside a German flying wing design, the Horten Parabola. Project Sign was the beginning. It would be renamed, reorganized, and eventually folded into the Project the World Remembers, Blue Book. But this was the first file. The moment the Air Force began writing it down, we are going to read all of it, in order, exactly as it was declassified. This was File 1. Next, File 2, Los Alamos, 1949. A wave of green fireballs that the men who built the atomic bomb could not explain.